All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are tackling a really common grammar puzzle, the present perfect simple versus the present perfect continuous. If you've ever paused and wondered which one to use, you are definitely not alone. So let's get this sorted out once and for all. Okay, so let's start with a classic. Which one of these is right? Well, here's the thing. It's a trick question. They can both be correct. But, and this is the important part, they mean totally different things. Figuring out that difference is the key to this whole puzzle, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So, first things first, before we get into all the ways these tenses are different, let's look at the one area where they actually overlap, where they find some common ground. And here it is. This is their common ground, talking about unfinished actions. Something that kicked off in the past, but is still happening right now. And you'll often see little clue words like for or since tagging along. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. With verbs like live or work or study, the difference in meaning here is tiny, almost non-existent. Both sentences are perfectly fine, and they mean pretty much the same thing. But this is where the similarities stop. Okay, now we get to the main event. This is the core difference. This is the big idea that's going to guide you like 90% of the time. It really just comes down to what you want to focus on. Are you talking about the result of something or the action itself? Think of it like this. The present perfect simple is all about the result. It's like putting a big check mark next to a task. It's done. But the continuous tense, with that looping arrow, that's all about the process. The action is ongoing, it's in motion. This is a great little mental shortcut to remember. So let's go back to our first example. When you say, I've read your book, you're focusing on that result, that completion. The book is finished. End of story. But if you say, I've been reading your book, everything changes. Now the focus is completely on the action of reading. You started it, sure, but you're not done yet. You're in the middle of it. The action is what's important here. Okay, so sticking with this idea of results, this brings up a super practical question. What happens when you want to mention how much or how many of something you've done? Well, a specific number is a result, right? If you're talking about writing 3 reports, that number, 3, represents a finished quantity. It automatically signals completion. And here is a hard and fast rule for you. Because you're stating how many, a completed result, you have to use the simple tense. She's written 3 reports. That's perfect. She's been writing 3 reports just doesn't work. That one gets a big red X. It's a really common mistake, so watch out for it. Now, what about a different kind of result? Not a number, but something you can see with your own eyes right now, like the evidence of a recent activity. So picture this. You see your friend, and he's totally out of breath. Maybe he's sweating. You are looking at the evidence of an action. And the reason for what you're seeing is he's been running. See? The continuous tense is perfect here. It emphasizes the recent action that caused the present visible result. You're explaining the sweat, not telling us he finished a marathon. All right, let's move on to our third major distinction, and this one is all about time. We tend to use the continuous tense when we really want to emphasize how long an action has been going on, or when we want to show that something is just a temporary habit. Just listen to the emphasis here. When you say they've been talking all night, you're really putting a spotlight on the duration. You can almost feel how long that was. It carries this extra weight, maybe even a hint of annoyance, that the simple tense, they've talked, just doesn't have. Here is another really clear-cut role for your grammar toolkit. If you're talking about a habit that's recent, something that's not part of your normal, permanent routine, the present perfect continuous is your go-to. This example lays it out perfectly. Usually, I eat at home. That's the normal, permanent routine. But then you add, I've been eating out this week. That immediately signals this is a temporary change. It's what's been happening lately, not what happens all the time. Okay, let's lock all this in. We're going to finish up with a little quick fire round of pro tips. Just think of this as your final cheat sheet to help you nail the right choice every single time. All right, let's run through this cheat sheet real quick. 3 key situations where you just don't use the continuous tense. First up, stative verbs. These are verbs about states or feelings, not actions, like know, love, belief. You say, I've known her, never, I've been knowing her. Second, quantity. We covered this one, but it's crucial. You state how many, use the simple tense. I've eaten 2 sandwiches. And finally, look for keywords like already and yet. These words scream completion, so they always pair up with a simple tense. So after all that, what does it all boil down to? It's really this simple. This isn't about memorizing a bunch of random rules. It's about meaning. The crucial point is that you're in control. You get to decide what to focus on. Is it the finished result or the ongoing action? You just pick the tense that tells the story you actually want to tell. And so I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you have the tools, can you think of a time where maybe you've been using one of these tenses when the other one would have been a little bit better? Thinking about that is probably the fastest way to really make this stick. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer.